The end of Norway's wealth. To understand why Norway may no longer be a rich country, we need to go back in time and look at the country's history. Once a poor and underdeveloped nation, Norway now enjoys the status of one of the richest countries in the world. How did this happen? Where did Norway's wealth come from, and why is it now facing such a negative scenario? It is worth starting with the origins of this fascinating transformation. Norway, which until recently was considered a wasteland, has now found itself at the top of the list of countries with enormous wealth. How did it go from being poor only 50 years ago to being incredibly wealthy today? The answer lies in the discovery of rich oil and gas reserves in the North Sea in 1969. It is these natural resources that have become the foundation of Norway's prosperity. From the outset, Norway decided to exploit its natural resources in a way that would benefit not only private companies, but above all, its citizens. In 1972, the state oil company Statoil was established to control the extraction and profits from oil and gas. This was a step towards ensuring that the whole of society benefited from this wealth, not just a few shareholders in private companies. At first, Norwegians had to rely on foreign companies that had the know-how to extract the raw materials. But as they gained knowledge, they increased the participation of local companies in the extraction process. The local contribution grew, and today, Norway has many companies employing hundreds of thousands of people in the oil sector. It is national companies like Kværner that have contributed to the country's development. Today, Norway earns most of its money from the oil sector and the sale of raw materials. The creation of national companies capable of extracting oil and gas in difficult conditions has been key to ensuring that the state gets the largest share of the profits. As well as creating national companies, Norway has made sure that foreign companies pay taxes on its territory. A law was introduced that allows the Norwegian government to determine the price at which raw materials are sold between companies on Norwegian territory to prevent the practice of shifting profits to tax havens. In addition, taxes on corporate profits were increased, and a special tax on the extraction of raw materials was introduced. In 1979, when OPEC countries reduced oil production, leading to a rise in oil prices, the Norwegian government further increased the extraction tax, resulting in the state taking up to 82% of the profits of foreign companies in Norway. These measures, such as national companies, price and tax controls, and the protection of interests in talks with multinationals, have enabled Norway to transform itself from a poor country into one of the richest in the world. But now, as we face a changing world and challenges to natural resources, the question is whether this model will continue to be sustainable or whether Norway may lose its place among the rich countries. Current situation. Norway is a remarkable country that has earned a reputation as one of the richest in the world. According to its GDP per capita figures, it was in an impressive 7th in 2020 at almost $80,000. However, what sets Norway apart from other rich countries is its unique sources of wealth and the way it uses them. Despite having a relatively small population of just under 5 million, Norway derives its wealth mainly from its vast natural resources. Oil and natural gas play a key role. In fact, Norway is currently one of the most dependent countries in the world on fossil fuels. These commodities account for 41% of Norway's exports and 14% of its gross domestic product. Norway is the world's second largest exporter of natural gas and 7th largest exporter of oil. It is the production and export of oil and natural gas that has enabled Norway to maintain its high material status. Future problems. Norway faces a number of future problems that could affect its economy and society. One of the most pressing issues is the depletion of the natural resources on which Norway's prosperity has been built. It is estimated that gas will run out in 23 years and oil in 9 years. Despite these predictions, Norway is already taking steps to prepare for this eventuality. It is worth noting that the decline and, in the long term, the closure of oil and gas fields can occur naturally. Oil production on the Norwegian shelf peaked in 2001 at 3.4 million barrels per day. Today, this figure has fallen to just 1.8 million barrels per day. Of the 26.7 billion barrels of proven oil reserves, 19 billion have already been extracted. However, the prospects for gas production remain more promising. Current gas production is around 120 billion cubic meters per year, making Norway the world's 8th largest producer and 2nd largest exporter. Forecasts indicate that gas production will remain relatively high for the next 15-20 years and will start to decline from around 2025. It is worth remembering that the dependence on the hydrocarbon extraction sector, which accounts for a large share of the economy, is only part of the potential problems. It is also important to remember that there are a number of related industries that are directly or indirectly linked to the extractive sector. In Norway, for example, the national maritime sector, including the fleet, occupies a significant position in the economy. Norwegian ship owners have a large fleet of vessels, including gas and chemical tankers, as well as oil tankers. The industry employs 53,000 officers and seafarers, making it an important part of the Norwegian economy. Paradoxically, wealth from oil and gas can lead to neglect of other sectors of the economy. Norway is also becoming increasingly dependent on income from financial markets, which are also subject to the fluctuations and risks of the global economy. Norway's prosperity may therefore be held hostage to a new and uncertain economic world. Norway faces a number of challenges, including the depletion of natural resources and the need to adapt its economic model to new realities. Dutch disease. Norway, known as one of the richest countries in the world, is currently facing a unique economic challenge, often referred to as Dutch disease. This is a term used to describe the negative impact of the discovery of rich natural resources on the country's economy. The mechanism of the disease is that, following the discovery and exploitation of these resources, the influx of foreign currency leads to a strengthening of the national currency, which in turn can lead to a reduction in the competitiveness of other export products and the collapse of other industries in the economy. The history of Dutch disease can be traced back to the Netherlands, which was one of the first countries to fall victim to this phenomenon. In the 1960s, large deposits of natural gas were discovered in the Dutch North Sea. Unfortunately, instead of contributing to the country's economic development, the exploitation of this resource led to stagnation and even regression. The sale of gas increased the value of the Dutch currency, which led to higher prices in general and made other Dutch export products less attractive. The phenomenon of Dutch disease can be explained by the theory of Rybczynski, a British economist of Polish origin. This theory states that, in a small country with unchanged world price relations, an increase in the stock of one factor of production with an unchanged level of the other leads to an increase in the production of a good that makes intensive use of the first factor, and at the same time to a decrease in the production of a good that is mainly produced with the other factor of production, whose stock remains unchanged. More specifically, a sudden increase in the resources of one factor of production, such as oil, gas, or coal, may lead to a reallocation of capital and labor from other sectors of the economy, which is necessary to access these rich resources. As a result, the overdevelopment of one sector of the economy can lead to the regression of other sectors. While Norway is currently still rich thanks to its oil and gas resources, it must be wary of these potential pitfalls of resource dependence. This is a unique challenge that puts Norway in a difficult position. In the future, it will certainly be extremely difficult for the Norwegian economy to maintain such a high position in the global economy. Thank you for watching the video. Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. See you next video.